What's up, everybody? Whitney's mad today.
I am not mad.
She's mad.
I'm actually happy because I didn't have to fix my hair.
She's mad because she walked in and I said, what's up, Carmen Sandiego?
Hey, where in the world is, I like her.
Y'all remember, you got to, first of all, it's happening all the time now that I'm telling our listeners that if you're listening, you're not viewing, then you're missing out.
Hey.
You get to miss out on my handsomeness here.
This is what's true.
So
we look
stupid.
good. We try to look good for this show.
Whitney is wearing a hat.
Fedora cowboy hat? Which is it?
It's one that in Mortal Kombat, they would take off and throw it and it would chop someone's head off.
Hey, that's true. I've hugged 2 people today and literally hit them in their dimple.
We have 2 of our staff bleeding because of Whitney's fedora.
Sorry.
What's on the top of it? A horseshoe?
It's like the brand is called Charlie Horse.
Oh, that's a brand. Charlie Horse? That's when you get punched in the leg.
Yeah, but it's a horseshoe.
That's a C?
But in the shape of a C for Charlie Horse. Yes. See?
Okay.
I don't know, like when the horse kicks you.
That's great.
Probably what happens.
Today, Bailey showed up. And can we put in a picture of Bailey? Can we take a picture of Bailey today,
no.
Easton, and put it in? Today, Bailey showed up looking like Gumby.
Yeah.
She got Gumby legs today.
You have a thing with outfits that if you see something and it reminds you of something, it's like your brain does that like
association
spinny wheel. It cannot move on to the next thing it needs to do. Like it can't process until you say, "What's up, Carmen Sandiego?"
Yes,
What's up, Gumby?
Rachel showed up to church on Sunday wearing some slippery pajamas.
Yeah, she looked wonderful. It was like a white suit.
Yeah, but to me, it just was slippery pajamas.
It's just the best.
You got this jacket you got this jacket that looks like you killed Cookie Monster and skinned him.
Hey,
and wearing Cookie Monster.
It's a beautiful sweater.
I'm just saying, I can't help but associate outfits with what it kind of reminds me of.
You told one of our...
But hey, it's a love language.
It is, because you told one of our female staff last week that she looked like Jay Leno when she wore a denim shirt.
Yeah, she had a shirt like this one, like a light denim shirt.
Yeah, and you said, "Hey, she's beautiful, Brady," and you said, "Hey, Brady, you kind of look like Jay Leno."
Well, I pulled up the picture of Jay Leno because he always wears, it's called a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah,
denim on top, denim on bottom, but the same color, and that's what she was wearing.
Yeah.
But she told me, well, this is kind of gross. Can I call Brady out on this podcast?
I guess you're going.
So she's wearing this shirt that's looks like she got it from a 300-pound farmer. She's wearing it.
That's the style.
But then it was raining that day.
Yes.
And we all went to staff lunch or somewhere, and I was sitting next to her, and I was like, what does that smell? And she said, oh, I bought this from the thrift store and didn't wash it. And I was like, no, wait a minute. You bought it from the thrift store, didn't wash it. You know that shirt used to be worn by a 300-pound farmer.
Correct.
Who was sweating and got some horse manure on it. And now you got it wet, and that wetness just reincarnated all of the...
what in the world?
All the scents.
Yes, but I think she washed it since then. Yeah, outfits are just a thing.
So
and
if I ever
that's
see
your love
you...
language. If you call us Cookie Monster or what's the other one?
Gumby legs.
What's the one? Hunchback
Quasimodo.
of Notre Dame.
When you got this other shirt, it looks like Quasimodo.
It just means he loves you.
You know Quasimodo, Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Welcome to the Tug of War, everybody.
Rachel gets it the worst, though. Rachel, she be coming wearing stuff. I'm like, what is going on? Are you a ninja?
Hey,
that's what I asked her.
We are starting our podcast now, sir.
But if you ask me that, I cry. If you ask me
exactly. That's what I'm like. You would not be happy if we said.
No, I got a tender heart.
Hey, Truston, you kind of look like Jay Leno today.
But I know. But see, it makes my feelings hurt because I know I do.
No.
I'm like,
that's
yep.
Not true.
That's ridiculous. Yep, I just look like Jay Leno. I might be a car mechanic.
Okay,
I might be a semi-truck driver.
No, you look good.
Guys, what's up? Hope that you enjoy our goofing around.
Yeah.
If
they don't, they already turned off probably.
We want to have fun.
Yeah, we're just lighthearted.
We just established a whole new vision.
We sure did.
For our staff team. We'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah, we have to.
About how we want to have fun.
Yeah, because whenever you're tugging into more, inevitably there comes a certain point when it's just real full of tension and stress and if you don't stop and have fun and really reevaluate what you're doing, it ain't fun.
You know what happens when you're tugging is you get calloused hands.
Yeah.
And so when you're all bleeding, calloused hand up, it's hard to laugh.
Yeah.
It's hard to have fun unless you make it a choice.
Right. Well, you said it. You have a tender heart. We don't want to get calloused hearts. We want to keep tender hearts even while our hands are calloused. And so
tender heart, calloused hands. Make it a T-shirt.
Yep. Love it.
It's fall, y'all.
It's fall, y'all.
There's s'more.
I knew you were going to say.
Hey, Easton, next year, there's s'more. We have to have T-shirts printed by when?
I don't know. September.
By September. He's writing it down. He's got his phone out. There's Schmore next year.
There's Schmore. I love it. So today, what are we talking about?
Well, so last episode, we left a little cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And said that we were going to finish up another idea.
Yeah.
A question we get all the time is from people who aren't the Jefe,
the boss of the whole organization,
and they're in a second or third or support level of leadership,
right?
And they say, "How am I supposed to lead from here? My leader, my pastor, he's a jerk. She's a loser. They don't listen to me. They say these kind of things. How am I supposed to affect change in the organization?" And so we talked on our last one about how you have to be able to learn to lead people that are older than you or maybe more mature than you. And then I think that we actually did an episode like years ago. It was like back in
the first season.
In the first season,
but
where
I can't remember what it was
I think we called it leading from the second chair.
Or leading when you're not the lead, maybe.
Boom.
Oh, second chair. There
Boom,
you go.
roasted winner.
You win.
That hat's constricting the
blood flow.
The brain blood
we'll
flow.
call this one leading when you're not the lead.
Leading when you're not the lead. Okay, so here's a challenge that a lot of leaders have, whether you're in ministry or you're just working in an organization, is that you've got somebody that you're working for.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see problems, difficulties, situations that they don't see, and you're trying to figure out how do I affect change in the organization when I'm not the boss. We met with a guy not too long ago.
He said that for him, he's been in the role he's been in for a long time. They've been working together. They have a great working relationship, but he said he feels like there's some big shifts that need to be made, but the leader is not willing to make them. And so he's like, am I just stuck? And the answer is multiple answers. It's twofold.
Let's say this to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
We already did an episode called something about know when to leave.
Yeah.
Or when it's time to go.
When it's time to go.
Can we tag that, link that? Because there's a certain point where it's time for you to dip.
Yeah.
If you're following a leader who is unwilling to make any changes or advance or isn't passionate or is not ethically living their life, then there's a time to leave. So let's just put that on the other side so we don't spend a lot of time.
Correct. Okay.
So we've seen youth pastors frustrated that their lead pastor won't give them any budget.
Right. Yeah.
So that's frustrating. We've seen executive pastors frustrated that their lead pastor won't change their service structure.
Yeah.
So they're still doing the same service structure they've been doing since 1973.
Right.
Still preaching an hour and 20-minute
Still
sermon.
got the American flag and the Christian flag on the stage.
As boring as a mug. Still got plants. Still got them fake plants with dust.
And pink carpet.
Yeah. So there's all those pieces. We've seen the people that are frustrated because the board doesn't believe that the next generation needs anything other than babysitting.
Right.
There's 100 creative people.
Yeah.
That creative people want to start an Instagram account, but their lead pastor thinks it's the Antichrist or something.
Absolutely.
And not just in that, we've got people in our church that we've talked with that their business owner, the person they work for, just everything's good enough.
Or the culture's toxic and they feel like there's people that need to be fired, but they won't fire them. They won't make the change. They won't make the shift. And so no matter where you are when you're leading, if you're not the final say, the final decision maker, it can get really frustrating if you feel like, how am I supposed to lead while they're not leading the way I wish they would lead?
So if you find yourself in one of those positions, the most important thing that you can do, first of all, is ready, 1, 2, 3, guard your heart. Look, we didn't even plan that.
I know. I knew we were going to say it, though. I was like, good. It's true. You have to.
You've got to guard your heart because it's super easy. I've been there. I know that I'm the lead guy now.
Right.
But for a lot of years, I was not the lead guy. And I remember getting frustrated. But it was because you can't see everything.
You don't have the full perspective that you think that you have, even if you're close to them. Even you and I, we lead a lot of things together, but there's still perspective I don't have that you still have, and there's information you're not aware of and privy to, and so you have to assume positive intent first and foremost in guarding your heart towards your leader. If you love them and believe in them. If you don't, you better check your heart, check yourself before you wreck yourself. But if you do, then you have to work on your heart and go, what's in me that's so bugged by them and not willing to see, have the empathy list, like we've talked about, to know that they're caring more than I see.
I remember when I was a youth pastor, the youth room that we were in did not have big enough side screens.
Oh, right.
It had side screens.
Correct.
But you know, I've always been there's more.
Yes.
And so we wanted bigger side screens. And so talked to the pastor, and I'm vision casting like, hey man, these bigger side screens, you can use this room for multiple events. You can do all these kind of things. And so he comes in and looks at it and he's like, you know what? I need to see it. I need to see it. I said, okay, what does that mean? And he said, build a frame that's big enough as the screen that you want. And so I was like, okay. And so we had this like storage room in the church, and it had these metal, aluminum metal studs. Mm-hmm. And so I went in there and cut it and measured it and made a giant screen, bootleg, not an actual screen, just the frame, and went and hung it up there, climbed up on a ladder, hung it up there, and called him in there. And he looked at it from all the angles, and he hemmed and hawed and gave him the budget of what I wanted to do. And he didn't tell me yes. He didn't tell me no either. He just...
Oh, well, think about it.
Yeah. And I remember getting frustrated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, dude, you made me build these stupid things. You had me climb up here on a ladder. You had me hold it up here for an hour and a half. Then you're not even going to tell me no. Like, at least just tell me no.
Right.
But now that I'm in the seat that I'm in, I don't know the stress that this dude was carrying.
Right.
I don't know the budget issues that...
You don't know what you interrupted to get him to come and look at your screen to even see what he thought.
And so part of the... So like, before we get into some of it, the first thing is about guarding your heart is like, have a little bit of empathy for your leader that you don't know the bandwidth of what they're trying to navigate.
No.
Who knows? Maybe the reason that he couldn't tell me yes to do those screens is because a bunch of givers left and there was an issue somewhere else in the building, or there was a lawsuit I don't know about, or like maybe money is going somewhere else. And I'm going, hey man, I only need 10 grand. And he's have the pressure of, man, I hope I can make payroll this month.
Right.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
I never worried about making payroll until I became the guy that was in charge of making sure everybody got paid.
Absolutely. It's true.
So like a little bit of empathy can go a long way, that maybe they're trying, they want to tell you yes.
Yeah.
But where it gets hard is the cultural stuff.
No, I think it's that. And then the other piece too is, man, you got to say it. So you got to guard your heart. But then once your heart is guarded, you're sure that you're right in your heart, that like it's pure and righteous, all the things. One of the things you and I, when we encountered this question, we ask people all the time, and it shocks me their answer, but we'll say, well, what do they say when you've talked to them about it? Mm-hmm. And they'll go,
I haven't.
They haven't talked to them about it. And I'm like, wait a minute. You want to make these changes, you see them, and you are assuming that they're going to say, you got to burn your butt, because you're assuming they're going to say no.
You haven't even broached the conversation.
Even brought it up to them yet. And so like, if you haven't even brought it up to them yet, if you haven't even gone and taken the actual step of bravery to walk in and say, hey, I've got some ideas, I've got some thoughts. I see this issue. Yeah. And I think that we could make a couple shifts to make it better. Not just bringing them the problems. Okay. But trying to help bring some solutions. So that's your first step. You got to do it. Guard your heart. Yeah. Then what you're saying is your second step, I guess. Yeah. Then what you're saying is have the conversation. Have a conversation. Now, if you're walking into that conversation and you're nervous, it's going to be a little bit tough, not going to be received really well, make sure that you have a plan. Yep. Right? And so anytime I walk into any kind of conflict conversation, I've got a plan. I've already written it out, and I've ran it past somebody that I trust and is not associated. Correct. So like if you're the youth pastor at a church and you've been in a place that you're senior pastor, don't go and talk to the kids pastor and the worship pastor, everybody about it, try to make a coup. Right. I'm saying talk to your wife about it, talk to your husband about it. Talk to a friend in another church, you know what I'm saying, to make sure that you're not walking in there with a bad attitude. For sure. Have a plan, then have the conversation. Have the conversation, see how it goes, and then from there, determine... what? And then pick what you want to say. Oh, yeah. Don't go in and talk about the carpet color and the culture and the attitude and how the guy's daughter's ugly and wears a short skirt. Or, like, hone in, like, what you're really trying to say. Well, you got to watch the podcast on conflict, because you got to do it correctly, because you're not trying to attack. You're trying to only bring the actual non-emotion but real conversation to the conversation. And then choose your words wisely, choose the situation wisely, and then just be attuned enough in the conversation to see how it's going. Don't keep pushing if it's clear that it's not working or it's not what he wants or she wants. And then but then be prepared that if in the meeting I think about Amanda and Enrique both, they're on our team, and there were times when they weren't actually on our team yet, but they brought some problems to me, to you, to us in different moments. And the response back we had was, okay, well, do you want to do that? Do you want to be the one to bring the solution? So if you really want to be a part of leading the change, don't just put it on them. Be willing to say, oh yeah, I'll help lead that. And so
it's not just complaining.
Right. It's not just, oh man, I wish my leader would.
Yeah.
It's being willing to say, I will step up and also lead the charge in this if they give me the leash or the leg room, whatever, leeway to do it. And so like for both Amanda and Enrique, there were times where I was like, do you want to do that then? And they were like, yes. Thankfully they said yes, because I didn't have the bandwidth. Again, you don't know what they have the bandwidth for. And so sometimes their no, especially what you said culturally, is not because it's not important, it's just not a priority right now.
Yeah.
And so if you're willing to do it, then good. But don't go in expecting, well, if they would only. I know a lot of our tug team, they're leaders, they want to be a part of leading, but there can be these times where we feel like, well, they should be the ones leading. No.
Right. So what you're saying is be willing to be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And tagged with that is bring a solution.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, hey, you know what? I think our worship stinks. Okay, cool. How do you suggest that you fix that? Well, maybe you bring some teenagers on the stage.
Right.
Maybe you stop doing this song, and maybe you start a service for people that like this type of music.
Right. Yeah.
What do you do? You come with a plan.
Yeah, I think so. You and I naturally, we are, I'm bragging on myself, but that's fine. We're both really good number twos because we are willing to be honoring to the person that is leading us, but then also pick up whatever slack is needed. Mm-hmm. But some people get comfortable in number two roles, number three roles, number whatever, and think, oh, that responsibility is on the leader. No, if you want to own your zone, you got to be willing to also play the field and carry what you got to carry.
Something we say all the time is that ministry is an experiment.
Yeah.
Right? Ministry is an experiment. It's never all the way official, done, we're going to do it like this forever. And so maybe when going and talking to your leader, you present your change as a experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I've got this idea. What if we try it this different way for a month?
Right.
What if we try it for a quarter? What if we just make this shift? Maybe it won't work. Maybe I'm wrong, but man, I really feel like it could. And then your leader doesn't feel like they're going to have to be married to something. Like, I'm cool with change. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm cool with change.
Yeah.
Some people aren't cool with change.
No.
So you gotta soft step them a little bit.
So whatever area it is, it could be in church, it could be in your business, it could be in a new sales season, whatever it is. But for us, not long ago, we had 2 services in a new facility that we were in. But after COVID and people were in masks and all of these things, the vibe was just lame. People were not shouting back. They were not
because everyone was
worshiping.
Socially distanced.
They had been spread out, and now they were sitting closer, but they still had this awkwardness. And so Easton and Bailey, some of our creative team, came to us and were like, "Hey, we have this idea. We wonder if we could just try it for 6 weeks, go back to just one service." And we both at first were like, ah. But then as they explained it and gave the ideas to it and the understanding about it, that's something that went really.
I hated it.
Yeah, right.
I hated this idea because it went against everything in my makeup.
Right.
Because the reason we have 2 services is because we have 2 nets.
Right.
There are now 2 opportunities for people to come, 2 different service times, family schedules, the flip-flop of serve one, sit one. I hated the idea of one service.
Yeah.
But when I sat and listened to it and I really chewed on it, I realized that this change is the one we needed to make.
Right.
And so we made the change. We went back to 1 and we got all the coals back together and the fire got hotter and it helped reshape the culture, the energy.
And again, it still stayed something that we were only doing temporarily, but it was so successful in what we were wanting that we actually kept it a little longer than the 6 weeks. We kept it more like 10 weeks. And by the time we went back to the 2 services, we had healthy teams, we had healthy people, and they were energized to be a part of the room they were in. And so, but had they not proposed it in a way that was like, let's just try this for a minute, it might have been like, no, we're not doing that, shut down. And so I think what you're saying is so true, that we have to be willing when we come with our ideas. It's not just our idea is the best way, but to have the pushback and the give and take of like, well, what if we do it this way? Well, what if we try it that way? And so be prepared in the conversation. Again, you have to start with guarding your heart, but be prepared in the conversation for it to go lots of different ways. But let's say you have the meeting, you have the conversation, the pastor says no, your leader says no, your boss says it's not changing. What can you do? Are you just stuck?
Maybe.
It depends on what it is.
It depends on what it is. Maybe you're stuck. So I would say, with the scenario that Whitney just said, then find the areas that you do have some ability to run in and get some wins under your belt. Get some wins. The reason that when Bailey came in and talked to me about that, and then we batted around with the team, that I was able to listen to this thing that I hated, is because there had been a track record of success. There was a track record of, you know what, these younger kids have had some ideas that went against my initial thought, but we sold more t-shirts when we got that brand. But people shared that graphic more than they shared that graphic, but the service flowed better when we, I'm saying like, because there were some smaller ones that I saw them as trustworthy voices, then I was able to listen quicker. And so like, if you're trying to get your leader to make a big, if you're trying to get your leader to make a big change, maybe don't start there. Maybe start somewhere else, and that other place you're going to start is probably going to take a lot of, it's going to take more work. Or it's something that's solely on you.
Well, you just said another piece of it too, though, is know the timing of what you're doing. So know the like weight of what you're asking them to change, but then the timing of when to ask. Like it would have been the wrong time to come ask you that right before Christmas or right before Easter, like,
or in the middle of a series,
or in the middle of it was like, oh, we see this time frame coming up that's going to be a good season for it. And but also that if you just screwed something up royally, do not go in all cocky and arrogant thinking that you can ask them to make changes. Like you have to be self-aware enough to know when's the right thing to ask.
And you know what I think in that situation, I think that they saw some discontentment in me,
100%.
how other things were going.
100%.
So like, I'm like, man, we need more greeters. We need row captains. We need this. We need more hype and worship. And they heard my frustration, but they had an idea that was outside of my realm of thinking. And so if you want to help your leader, maybe you need to listen to what's bugging them. But then realize that the answer they need, they might not be able to grasp. I'm telling y'all, I would have never in 1,000 years came up with the idea to go back to one service for 10 weeks.
Never.
Never. But it was the right move. But they kept hearing this. They're paying attention to me in staff meeting. They're hearing this frustration in my voice about how we're not progressing and things are going and feeling in the wrong direction. They just had an answer that
was different.
I would have never reached for. And so sometimes we just call our leaders punks or not paying attention. Well, maybe you just need to pay attention.
Maybe you need to pay attention
to their heart. Like, what are they trying to figure out?
Absolutely. And I think that is such a key piece of leading from not the main chair, is understanding them, knowing them, really understanding what they care about. You're saying all the right things that are a necessary piece that if you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be there anyway. But then what you said is so important, that there are areas where you can make influence and you can make change. And so maybe you don't have a leader, like you are a very, there are things you care about, but you're really good at giving leash of like once the parameters are set, you're like, go do it. Now you run and carry it. And
Right.
so I know that there are people who, I guess the word would be micromanage. They have micromanaging leaders who literally won't like we were joking about it earlier today that like there are some people who literally can't get the like volunteer meeting changed from Monday to Tuesday, even though all the people have like soccer and baseball practice on Monday without the leader's approval. Whereas even I don't know, you don't know, but I don't even know when it is, except when I see it on the calendar.
Right.
And it's up to them to decide it and plan it and invite them and all of the pieces. And I just know it's happening. You just know, oh, they're carrying it. But if you have a micromanaging leader, that's where it can be really difficult to feel and start to feel like, well, there's not really anything I can do. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I can actually change. And I think if you know that you're still called to be there, and like that's an important piece to pray, am I supposed to still be a part of this organization, this church, even this team, maybe in the organization that you're part of? But if you know that you are, then say, okay, God, where can I make change just today? Maybe it's one-on-one with another teammate. Maybe it's just something small that your leader may not actually even ever see.
Yeah.
But the truth is, we believe, the Bible's our context, that God is our promotion, not man. And if we will work unto the Lord, if we'll be intentional to say, hey, God, whatever you give me today that I can lead, I'll lead it to the best of my ability, then God can work some of that stuff out that we can't ever work out ourselves.
Yeah. It's great.
It's important.
Another thought
go.
that my brain bounced to out of all that was, you said you've got to go and have the talk with your leader, mm-hmm. but maybe the talk before you have the lesson and the points and the conflict, maybe it's just a talk with your leader that says, hey, so-and-so, I love you.
Yeah.
Thankful that I'm here. I know that you want more out of the organization.
Right.
What can I do to help?
Yeah.
Like, is there an area that I can throw on my shoulder and I can help? Now, hopefully they give you something that's like in the vein of, hopefully they don't say, yeah, you can pick up my dry cleaning and get my car washed for me and you can mow the lawn. So you can mow the lawn so we can not have to pay the lawn maintenance guy. Hopefully that's not what they tell you. But like, if there's an area that you can go to your leader and say, hey, man, I just want to help take some burden from you. Is there an area that you want to advance or to get better that I can just step in and help?
Add some horsepower.
Horsepower to accomplish your vision.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, you do that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
If you do that 3 or 4 times, then when you come to them and say, hey, you know how we've been working on these special projects together? Mm-hmm. I got an idea.
Yeah.
Then you can implement your special project.
Absolutely. I think it's at least a tactic worth trying. Yeah.
Okay. The heart piece, though, the culture piece is a lot harder. I remember a team that I was on was not open, honest, and transparent.
Yeah.
We were not OAT. It's this new thing I've came up with.
Yeah.
OHT, OAT.
You're ridiculous.
We were not OAT. And so I wanted, that's a joke. Transformation Church does HOT.
Yeah.
Hot, humble, open, and transparent.
Yes.
We were not toe.
Ridiculous.
And I wish I would have came up with it.
I know, it's wonderful.
The basement dude.
Yeah, Tim Ross.
Tim Ross, he came up with it. He's genius.
Oh, he is the one who came up with it?
Yeah, he says he did.
Oh, I love it. I believe it. That's awesome. Yes.
Our team was not that. We're not open, honest, and transparent, and I wanted us to be. I needed it.
Yeah. Well, you are it.
I am it. I'm the guy. I'm the guy that, like, in junior high, called all my buddies together and talked about looking at bras and JCPenney catalogs.
Right.
Since the beginning, I've been the one who's always been initiating that. And so I remember there was this season for me that I had became a liar. Mm-hmm. I haven't talked about this in a long time. Mm-mm. I had this season that I became a liar. And it was just easy for me to start saying things that weren't true. I was buying and selling a whole bunch of cars to make money. And
they were what you call little white lies.
Little white lies. Sometimes a little gray. But yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wrote out this thing and I called this group of guys on our team together and I read them this kind of confession. And I was like, man, I don't want to be this way anymore. And so I just wanted to confess and I just wanted you guys to help me you know, shift that. I'm sorry if I've said anything manipulative or misleading to you. And what I was attempting to do was to shift a culture and give that it was for me, but I was also trying to shift the culture to get them to bite, to help me create this culture. And guess what? Nobody did.
No. They just said, thank you, Truston, for admitting you're a liar. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's okay. They're not my friends anymore.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to see a cultural shift, jump.
Yeah.
Get out of the boat.
Absolutely.
Like, if you think that everybody in your team is fake and phony and you're not, cool. You be the one to open up in a staff meeting and cry.
Yeah.
Like,
no, again, I think that's something you and I, we lead by example in that we're willing to say sorry. And even when we're not wrong, willing to say like, my bad, even when we didn't screw it up. But we're not doing that just because we're self-deprecating. It's because we're trying to lead by an example of like, it's okay to not do it perfect. It's okay to screw it up sometimes. It's okay to admit as a leader, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
No, we want to lead by example. And so like.
And just this week in staff meeting, Pastor Tim, he apologized to everybody around the table for something I'm not even all the way sure that he's done all the way. Like, but he has, but not to the level of his apology, but he's doing it because that's the culture that we've worked on. Philip did the same thing.
Yeah.
There's this Amarisa, same thing. This heart of like, I don't want to be the thing that slows us down. I'm sorry for this area. And that starts somewhere. And if it's not going to start with your leader,
correct.
maybe you can start with you.
Absolutely. And being a leader who's willing to say, I see the change that needs, there's that phrase, be the change you want to see in the world. And we think of it in like this huge way of like, I have to.
Talking to the man in the mirror. Hey, oh yeah, that song inspired to you by Whitney's hat.
I knew you were going to say, "Hey, I'm doing good." I got a couple of people's names today that I could be. But they like for real. You may not be able to make massive change in global warming or whatever. Whatever it is that you
Save
think
the whales.
needs to be fixed.
Use a paper straw.
Yeah, don't use actual straws. Whatever it is. But you can be the change in your office, in your department, in your hallway of kindness and saying hello first and saying thank you when someone does something generous, or being generous. You can start to affect change in a small way. And what is the thing? A small spark can set things ablaze. That's a verse that actually means the opposite direction. Yeah. But you could use it in a positive way to say
it has been done before.
It has been done. That you could say you can change something small and it can spread. Kindness can spread, generosity can spread if you'll just be the one to say, okay, I'm going to change it. And so I think for some of those people, what you said, give yourself some wins. Well, why don't you give yourself some cultural wins too?
Yeah. And have some grace for your leader because they might be carrying stuff bigger than you know. Yeah. And when you're carrying big, overwhelming things, it's easy to miss the things that you're concerned about.
Well,
so for us, when we were in the building thing and land swap and all the stuff, dude, I was so focused and so mentally preoccupied that I was not able to see some other things. Correct. And so maybe your leader's carrying some stuff that they just need you to have their 6.
Exactly.
And I think you go and tell them hey, so-and-so, I got your 6. I got your back. Right. I know you're running forward, looking at this, dealing with this, but hey, back here, I see something. It's in our blind spot. Can I help?
Yep.
Can I help? Not you suck, not you didn't see it.
I got another one.
Can I help? Okay.
I got another one. Especially in those seasons. The other thing we have to do as people who are not the leader, sometimes we just don't need the accolades for it. Sometimes I think we so want our leaders' approval to do it because we think we can't lead without their approval. I think the other side of it is sometimes we want them to say yes to it because we want them to see us and the leading that we're doing and the change that we're affecting. And sometimes you just got to lead and not need the what is the word? Credit?
Make it better.
Approval,
make it better without being hungry for the attaboy.
Yeah, there's a lot of times. This is not. I don't know. Oh well, whatever.
No, I know. There's a lot of times that you do stuff
that you don't
that is for the benefit
of
the organization, the staff, the church that I don't know about. But guess what? I know.
Yeah, right.
I know I might not know for 6 months.
Yeah.
I might not know for 2 years later, but then I find out, wait, you did what with who?
Yeah.
You had lunch with who?
Right.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know you talked to them. I'm saying,
it doesn't, I'm not saying don't do things
we
without
want a pat on the back so bad today
Right.
that we won't do it unless we think we're going to get it tomorrow.
The attention and the credit for it. And I'm like,
And there's something about storing up yourself treasures in heaven.
Something about
where
that.
moth and rust do not destroy.
In like man's approval versus God's approval. But like, for real, like I'm not saying do stuff behind their back that they wouldn't approve of. But like, one, you've given me great leash to do and lead where I'm supposed to do and lead. But not everything I do needs your like, yes. Because the only reason I would be doing that is just to get, look at me, look at me, look at me. And that is a waste of your energy. And the truth is a waste of mine.
Yeah.
And like, if you've been deemed the second chair, or if you've been deemed the director of a department or whatever, if you've been deemed
any responsibility,
the coffee maker of the like kitchen staff of the team, whatever, just do that to the best of your ability and let the rest work itself out. Because you're right, inevitably there are things that your leader will find out later that you took care of and cared for that you're like, wait, what? I didn't even know that happened. And actually, to me, when I find that stuff out, when I find out something Amarise has done that I didn't even know or ask her to do, I have so much more respect for her as a leader because I realized she owned her zone and carried it and took it above and beyond what I even was hoping for, what you even had a vision for. Then if it was just like, oh yes, you are approved to do those things. That's ridiculous. And so I think that's another piece that maybe we've never identified before all the way.
No, that's great.
Yeah. What?
Okay, so the recap.
Yep.
Guard your heart.
Guard your heart. Have a conversation.
Say the stuff that you haven't said. Offer a solution.
Yep. Be willing to carry it if you need to.
Yep.
Make some change where you can.
Have some empathy that maybe your leader's doing stuff that you don't know.
Have their back. Earn some credit. Like, earn some, what's the word? Equity.
Earn some equity. I got another thought too.
Don't take the credit. That's the other one. And then go.
Don't take the credit. Use somebody else's voice. So one of the best things for me, we've talked about in here before about how I had a hard time learning to rest, wasn't doing all the things. You know, something this one did is sent me a sermon that she wanted me to listen to. Because she knew that I would listen to that voice.
Right.
So like, if there's a thing that you're hoping that your pastor or leader or whoever wants to really get better, and maybe your pastor's the worst at handling conflict. Maybe they got somebody they need to fire and they won't fire them. Send them our podcast about firing people.
Right.
Like,
let someone else do the
sometimes we want to wear the cape. No, man. Sometimes all we need to be is Lois Lane and yell, Superman.
Right.
Let somebody else swoop in and say all the hard words. I promise that whatever your church leadership business is going through, it's on YouTube somewhere. Somebody has talked about that idea. Bring us some Gary V. I don't know. Send somebody to your leader and say, hey, listen to this.
No, it's true. Absolutely. That's really good. In that, like, and then don't be like, or if you send them some things or if someone else says it, don't be offended if you're like, this is what I've been trying to say for 6 months. Guard your freaking heart. Guard your heart. Guard your heart. And
it's about progress, not promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, if you're on the journey, just be on the journey and like be willing to whatever role you're playing in that season, play it to the best of your ability.
So, that's great.
Yeah, super good.
Another thought. We've had before people on our team take initiative, get excited to try to start something that they think is a big need. But it's not a big need right now. I'm not saying it well. So like, someday I want us to have a ministry that helps homeless people. Or prison ministry. Or a counseling center. But I know that those things aren't right now. But if one of our team got all excited about it and started recruiting and having meetings and doing stuff and trying to raise a budget outside of our budget to do the thing, that would not make me happy.
No.
Because you're taking horsepower to an auxiliary output instead of focusing on what we're needing to focus on. So how does somebody differentiate that?
Well, I think it's you said it at the top, or you said it a little bit ago, we have to listen to the leader who's carrying the vision. And we have to ask ourselves, are we aligned? Are we as people aligned to this vision? If not, then we need to think about whether we should be there or not. But if we are aligned to the vision, then is what I think needs to happen go in alignment to the vision. You know, you and I have had to learn over the years that there's only so much bandwidth of what we can actually carry and accomplish.
Right.
We had a season where we had to stop starting things because we just like to start stuff, and we were starting things everywhere.
Dude, that'd be a good episode.
Yeah,
Stop starting.
And in fact, in our stopping of starting, we were able to accomplish more. But if what you're trying to do is just something you think is a good idea, not necessarily solving an issue.
Or you're looking for a place to build a kingdom of your own.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast for sure.
Yeah.
But like, good grief. But yes, then you have to, again, you have to recognize, does this go with the vision? If it does, cool. But what you said, is it right now? Is it the next right step? You have to trust your leader that it may or may not be the next right step. Or what you said before, that sometimes ideas come to leader in a way that they may not be able to see or fully understand. Sometimes your leader has understanding you don't have. And so,
yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tell the story because he won't care because we've talked about it.
Okay.
But like for a long season, Enrique is incredible. And his...
Shout out, love Enrique.
Love him so much. Like,
that's what's
so
up.
Grateful. That's what's up always.
But she's about to throw you under the bus, I think.
No, I'm not. But only in what we've talked about, that like he was really committed to discipleship programs the way he had been discipled and the way it had helped him. Because
via classes.
Like, yes, like because his heart for people was that they would have the same life change that he and Cassandra had had. And so he really wanted to do these classes. He was really determined to do it. And we're trying to tell him, hey man, you're carrying a lot of other things, and right now that's just not what will be the best for your bandwidth.
Right.
But his love for the vision was correct. The vision was that more people would know the love of Jesus and really come into their more. And so in his mind, hey, this is the next right step. But but again, he guarded his heart. He had the conversation, and we also, that's the other piece. It's hard if your leader won't have the conversation back with you, but
yeah.
I don't know what to do on that one. But we were able to have the conversation back with him and be like, hey man, right now that's not what we need you to do. And we were very clear with what we needed him to do, and then he did that.
Right.
And in doing that, he will now say, I didn't realize how much discipleship is getting done in the thing you were actually asking me to do, not in a classroom setting.
For sure.
The way I thought. And so sometimes our willingness to be obedient to God's voice, but also to be obedient to what our leader is asking us to do, will allow the space for us to run. Because what's really awesome to see is now he's running into so many more things that he didn't even know he even had like the heart and desire for.
Yeah.
But it's because he was willing to go, okay, I submit to what you're asking me to do in this season, and I trust you and God that he'll work the rest of it out. And now God's opened these doors for him to run into even more things. And it's so cool to see. But again, it would never have happened if he wasn't guarding his heart and then willing to hear the feedback and adjust. You have to adjust.
No, it's true.
You either have to adjust or eject, one or the other. Like you cannot stay where you are and stay rigid, or you got to be flexible. That's another one. So
leading from the second chair can be tough.
Yeah.
If you don't have a leader who wants you to lead, they just want you to fill a wheel. And so I know we said it 30 times, but you've got to guard your heart from that.
Absolutely.
You know, the thing that almost took down Moses was Aaron and I just lost her name.
Her?
No, Moses' sister.
Oh gosh.
I'm embarrassing ourselves right now.
Oh.
Moses, Aaron, and Miriam.
Miriam. I was going to say Mariah, I was like,
so glad I beat
Mariah
you.
Carey. Oh God.
So glad I beat you. I was about to be so sad I lost my Bible quiz challenge.
Oh, you win.
When they were like, there was a moment they were real frustrated with him, right?
Yeah.
But they had to guard their heart because they didn't understand the pressure that he was under.
Right.
But inversely, the other story is when Moses was in a battle, he had Aaron and a guy named Hur, H-U-R, come alongside and lift his arms.
Yeah.
And like, maybe your leader just needs you to lift his arms, lift her arms.
Yeah.
But then like, how long is this episode so far? Oh my. Okay.
How long?
45.
I couldn't see it.
So we're still in our newish temporary studio. We usually have a timer up. We don't have our timer up.
Wait, what are you saying?
I was saying like, but what if like, what does somebody do if their leader just doesn't give a crap? Like, what if they've already done all these things? What if they've already worked hard and been faithful and been loyal and tried and tried to fix the thing, but their leader is just, you know what I see is a lot of times is pastors, they just get in autopilot mode. They're just in autopilot. It's good enough. I'm getting a paycheck. I'm golfing twice a week. Nobody's getting saved. Nobody's getting baptized,
Right.
but I'm getting paid, so I don't care. What does somebody do if there's just no, like, do you remember? Yeah.
What?
You remember we went to a conference, this years ago,
Yeah.
before I was lead pastor. We went to a conference and there was just a lot of stuff in the church going on that was kind of like,
Yep. Confusing.
yeah. And we went and we heard this other lead pastor.
Yeah.
It was in a breakout. Me and you and Amy Chin, shout out, were there. And this other pastor started talking about reaching souls.
Yeah.
And Whitney started losing her junk and crying.
Like a baby.
Like, because our culture was not one that was passionate
Yeah.
about that. So
Yeah.
like, you remember that feeling.
100%.
What does somebody do? Like, I remember that feeling.
Yeah. But
And
you
I
know, for
tried
me,
to-
oh, go.
No, and like, so I feel like there's some people that have listened to the episode. We're at the end, 45 minutes, we're about to shut off, and they're like, but you're not actually helping me because I did all that, and dang, this stinks. It's hard.
Yeah.
I want to cry.
Yeah.
My leader doesn't care.
Well,
what do we tell them?
you know me, like I'm super committed to being planted and blooming where you're planted. Like the Bible says that where you're planted, when you're planted in God's house, you'll flourish. And I don't think you can be planted by jumping around from place to place to place. You've said it before on this, like if you go be, the CEO for a year at like 5 different places, you've really only been a CEO for a year.
Yes.
If you go be the youth pastor for a year at a church, but 6 different churches, you haven't been a youth pastor for 6 years, you've only been one for one. So I believe in staying. I believe in being faithful. You and I are stayers. We talk about that all the time. And so for me, I'd been in that season for a while. You'd been in the season you were in, and I'd been in the season I was in for a while. And both of us had a big passion to see people's lives transformed.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like, well, we could just move on. And like, that's an option. But the other option is to just be faithful where you are with what's right in front of you and to give your very best, because there was still a crossing guard that my kids encountered every morning when we went to school. And I still had the opportunity to love them and to invite them to church. And like, you may not be currently right this minute fulfilled, but only because 7 years on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I said it to you the other day, like, I'm super glad you didn't bounce, because if you'd have bounced before we got connected, we wouldn't get to do this. And so like, there are seasons of just waiting, even in really hard things. And so I don't want, my fear is then somebody getting to the end of this episode and then being like, okay, I've done all of that. Well, I guess I'm just out. And you may miss the miracle that's about to happen, the next right step God has for you.
Okay.
If you jump out of alignment with what his will is. And that's a hard one. I don't know how to tell people how to know.
I do.
Go.
I prayed and fasted for 40 days.
Well, that's what I was about. Yeah.
Oh.
Other than your prayer, your discernment of what God's telling you. Go.
And I didn't listen to nobody
Yeah.
except God.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to nobody.
Yeah.
Because everybody had an opinion. Because everybody's opinion was based on what they could get from me.
Right.
And so I had to get away and ask Jesus,
Right.
what am I supposed to do?
Yep.
And over those 40 days, he made it clear. And for me, in my situation, I resigned
Right.
from that culture.
Right.
But in God's plan, I'm not the one who left.
Right.
But I resigned.
100%.
I said, I'm not doing this. This is not a culture I want to be a part of. I'm stepping away from this thing.
Yeah.
And then in God's goodness, I got to stay in the location of the people and the place that I loved.
Right.
And
No,
so
exactly.
like, it's a tricky balance.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And man, we would love to help.
Yeah.
So like, if you're there and at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, you haven't actually helped me, reach out to us.
Yeah.
Call us. We'd love to talk
Yeah.
with you, because there's so many, like when it comes to leaving or staying, there's so many nuances.
There's so many unique variables
Yeah,
that
unique
matter.
variables that it's worth understanding.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I can't wait for?
What?
It's already started a little bit. I can't wait for people that are on our tug team to just start moving here to help us.
That would be amazing.
I got a message from a guy just this week that lives in
Mississippi.
And he's been watching More Church online real consistently, our Sunday stuff, and it's changing his life.
Yeah.
It's changing his marriage.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know how, but I'm moving to Mansfield, Texas. Like, this is my community. I need to be a part of this.
Right.
So my heart is that More Church can be a landing place for pastors, leaders that have walked through some of that hurt change.
Yeah.
And that we can be either a landing place temporarily,
right,
or we can be a new foundation for their ministry. We've had multiple people come here post ministry hurt.
Absolutely.
Just to attend and to be. And some have stayed and got hired.
Mm-hmm.
Some I've connected with another pastor and they're now back on staff somewhere.
Yeah.
But like, come and help us.
Yeah.
Come and help us. That's not a job. That's not a job offer.
No, but that's like a community offer. That's
it's a community offer that you can get in proximity to a place that is tugging into more, that is pursuing health, that is transparent.
Right.
And who knows what God has, man.
Absolutely.
God's doing big things here.
Absolutely.
We have a big vision for what's next. And Peter would have never walked on water if he hadn't got out of the boat.
No, it's true.
And sometimes the reason we don't leave is because we're just holding on to the side of the boat.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you something. There's a lot of boats on the shore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that you have to allow yourself, you and I have talked about it. There are people and moments that we have to leave, and we just have to do it from a non-emotional place.
Yeah.
But from a place of obedience to God and listening to what he's telling us. Because you're right, you did resign, and yet God said, actually, here's how I'm going to work this out. For me, I was like, I am going to stay put. I don't really know what that means, but God, I trust you. I just know you said it. Yeah. And look what he worked out. And so, like, we have to just be willing to hear his voice over any other voice. And we would love more people that are like-minded in that.
Reach out, tell us your story, let us know what's up. If there's anything we can do to help you, would love to help. And for real, that's real talk. That's a real thing. Come and help us.
Yeah.
Come hang out. There's a lot of room in the kingdom. There's a lot of room here at More Church. Dude, we'll give you a job right now. I might not give you a paycheck, but I'll give you a job right now.
That's true. Love y'all.
Love y'all. Like, tag, share, follow, subscribe.
All
do
the
it.
things.
Click it. Click it.